Hey everyone, welcome to week 4. This is day 22, and yes, gonna start right off with it. The t shirt is back on the radar today, and today's is a tiger. And that actually lines up with the poster behind me. I had somebody point out recently they loved the poster, which I thought was kind of fun. I like tigers. Okay, quick note before I get into today. I've got the procedure coming up next week, so again, things may shift slightly for a few days around that. Nothing major expected, but I just wanted to keep that on the radar. Also, if the background looks a little in progress, we started cleaning and reorganizing the space today. It's getting there. All right. Today felt like a continuation of yesterday, but also a bit of a step past it. This morning I came in expecting to see if I could find that same general state again without trying to recalibrate it or recreate it. And it happened. It exactly happened. The first take today was 136. Came in with strong calibration. The tone color matched almost immediately. And my voice was not in the same place today that it was yesterday. Yesterday I had pure morning voice, but everything connected early and it stayed that way, which was great. But what stood out wasn't just that it worked again. It was that I really didn't have to go looking for it. It was just there. I just jumped on and knew that I would land where I wanted to. There was one discovery that really shifted how I'm thinking about things. So that transition into low A1 comes after the two high intensity lines. And it seems that it's not about running out of energy. I think it's about how quickly I can reorganize. So what I'm doing is I'm going from that high intensity setup into something that supports the low production. And I really have to be open and relaxed for that to occur. Once I started looking at it that way, a very small change really made a noticeable difference. On the next take, I released just slightly earlier, going on to that transition. And it wasn't like a quarter note or a half note. I just the lightest pause, because they sort of rolled together, and this was more of a catch breath. The result was the low note came more solid, more like that, and the presence was great. Beyond that note, just by itself, the energy across the entire piece really was starting to level out. It wasn't spiking, it wasn't dropping. It was wonderful. It was sitting in a place where I could actually start to feel dynamics without losing intensity. And that led to the bigger realization. So, up until now, and I've talked about it in several of these episodes, the focus has been on getting out of the way, letting the system work. Don't interfere. The second you think about it, things tighten up or don't go right. Now, that hasn't changed. But today showed me something entirely different. I actually can consciously influence what's going on without breaking it. And I'm not controlling it, I'm not really forcing it, but really just sort of um, leaning into it, making very small, almost weightless adjustments in the right place. So it's really not like steering, it's more like nudging something, and it's already moving. And if it's already moving in the right direction, that nudge helps. It doesn't disrupt. And that was really new. I also tried something very different today. Today I tried to add an exploration take. This is what I will refer to as take 138. So there was an impulse to try an octave lift. Be prepared in its original arrangement and performance with bass singer Jeff Castellucci, who has an immense range, hits these last two lines and jumps up an octave. And of course, it's really, really impressive. So I didn't want to just go for it. I wanted to walk through the reasoning. I really challenged myself a lot on this. So I came down to wanting to test it intentionally, but as a separate experiment. I did not want whatever happened to influence the concerted progress of what I was doing. And the result was not very clean. My attention was not completely in the piece to begin with. The octave came in a little late. I forced it. I ran up against the ninja wall and promptly hit my face on it. It showed me that something like that has to be introduced earlier and without urgency. That forcing it at the last section doesn't really tell me anything meaningful about whether it belongs or not, whether I can do it or not. So it was less about did it work and more about understanding how to approach something new without disrupting what's already there. In both my pieces, I added sections gradually. So I am going to be trying to figure out how and when to try to bring in the octave hop, so properly warmed up, etc. Okay, that was the morning, and then we moved to the afternoon. And this is where everything really came together. I always have numbers on my takes, so I know how many of these things I've done. This was take 71, and that's the one that really shifted things. Up to this point, even when things were working, it still felt like I was managing different parts of the piece. I was putting pieces together, trying to make sure one fed to the other and kept it aligned, but in this take, it didn't feel like that anymore. It was one of the first times that Boulevard felt like a performance. I was holding the energy when I started it, but I wasn't trying to throw the energy like a football. It just carried along with me, and it went all the way through. So the section one, which is the initial verse that starts high, I actually found out why one of the notes, the high note, was kind of fouling. It was a vowel. I was trying to go E really high, and I changed it to A. There was a moment where the old and new instincts kind of crossed, and it didn't quite gel that time, but nothing breaks. The second section, which is the one down here, I think I finally got my tone color. I think I've finally found what my voice sounds like rather than me imitating the other members of the bass gang. There's still balancing to figure out there, but I'm not chasing a sound. Section 3 is the first chorus, and everything was there. I didn't reach for it. The notes came when I needed it. The energy maintained. I've even managed to continually cycle back the highest note in the chorus without blasting it. And that held. Finally, section 4. And this was one of the bigger shifts. I had come out of yesterday thinking that I was still missing melody points, that I was getting notes wrong. And I listened to it once or twice last night, but I forgot to actually practice, think about it. And I went directly in, and I was pretty sure I had forgotten to actually adjust my notes. On the playback, the melody was right, which means I'm not managing anymore. I'm just taking it in and it runs. Um, so at this point, I'm not getting there. It's there. The biggest difference this time around, um, I actually am beginning to more enjoy parts of Boulevard while I'm doing it. I think about Be Prepared in the morning, and I absolutely adore that one. I'll do that one anytime. It's just fun. But Boulevard has such intensity, I haven't really wrapped myself around to go, I'm enjoying this. But it started happening today. And not because I tried to, but because there was nothing else I had to pay attention to. Everything was working as expected. And for me, that it feels like a turning point. At the same time, this, of course, introduces a new problem. So the system is producing more energy than pretty much any output can really handle cleanly. Now that everything's strengthened and there, on the recording, am getting clipping in a few sections, which really just messes up the sound. But I'm not, as I've said with everything else, I'm not consciously saying I need to pull back. Um, there's two sides to it. There's whether or not my levels are correct for this song, or whether or not now that everything's there, I'm just letting all the energy go. But that's something that is future me problem. Right now, the important thing is that the piece can run. It's connected. There's accuracy. I'm not picking out specific things that are wrong. It's consistent. I'm doing it. I did it yesterday. I did it more today. So now the work going forward isn't about reaching for something new. Now that it's there, now I can start shaping it. Now I can put in theatrical intent, or in the case of Boulevard's low verses, really try to steady intent but not lose the intensity. Yeah, I've got the stuff there. Now I just need to stop thinking about it as singing and start thinking about it as performance. And I'm just beginning to make that transition. So big, heavy day. One quick side note. A little bit outside today's session, but still really connected to the stuff I work with. If you haven't seen it online, VoicePlay just released a new short video. They did the original Pokemon theme. If you watched a few days ago, I said, I've got something really cool to announce. It really rocks. And then I realized I was still on Patreon and hadn't been announced. So it's out there and it is fantastic. Their featured singer, Omar, who did Wanted Dead or Alive, is the basically the featured singer singing the melody of Pokemon. And it's great. Nostalgia all the way. Yeah, this is where I completely fail at pretending to be neutral. Just it's awesome. Go check it out. Okay, the arrangement, the energy, the clarity. It's one of those pieces where you can hear exactly why they're on the level they are. I have the link in the description, and I'll put it along with a list of all the other a cappella groups that I follow. If you see the list and there's a group you really like or think really I should pay attention to, please feel free to drop it in the comments. All right, let me bring it all together. Today feels like a shift from managing performance to being inside of it, a part of it. And that really is changing what the work looks like. It's taken me several weeks to get there, because my first day of this journal was actually about a month in from where I started. But it's just so encouraging. Thank you for riding along. That was day 22. I will see you tomorrow, and as always, later.